ISAE Cloud, the one central place for managing your practice and workflow securely, is back with yet another release. Wondering what's new? Let's have a look at the latest changes in ISAE Attestation. ISAE Attestation is our streamlined legal practitioner and property practitioner trust account assurance engagement app. The Attestation now have a brand new logo to fit in with the new Caseware brand. Let's take a look at what's new. Firstly, looking at features, then some fixes, and lastly content. First of all general, then for legal practitioners, and after that property practitioner. When creating a file, you can now choose between our previous versions 2021 and 2022 and the new version 2023. You're going into a beta period and the new version will be called 2023. Once you have created the engagement, you can access the important latest release information from the first document in the beta folder. You can now also access entities from within the engagements. When in the engagement, you can now select the entity name from the entities dialog to the engagement properties to quickly navigate to your cloud site and change any information that might be relevant to this specific entity. You can now also edit PDFs that has been uploaded to your engagement. When you open a PDF in your engagement, you can select the Copy URL button. After you open a PDF document, you can select the Copy URL button. Copy this file's URL and then use it to open the document within Adobe Acrobat. After you edit the PDF, in Acrobat you can then save as the file to the same file pathway to sync the changes to the PDF in your engagement file, thus not having to download and re-upload. You can now also set the visibility conditions for individual picklist responses within checklists and queries. To do this, open a work program or query, edit a procedure. You then override the checklist settings, and within the options, go to the edit button again. You can now edit the procedure responses that's available and set the visibility conditions. You can select any condition or a various selection of conditions. This now allows us to tailor the response types based on the engagement settings we've answered before, and it allows us to create a much more dynamic product within ISAE Attestation. You will also see now that, for example, where you select the types of entities as well as descriptions of management, you will only have the relevant options available, whereas in the past you might have had some options available which would not have been relevant to the engagement and you would have had to select those, whereas now with this new ability you can select the ones that is applicable. You can now also copy and paste documents across engagements. This becomes really applicable when we now move into the agreed upon procedures engagements and you've done work already in the ISAE Attestation product, but in ISRS agreed upon you want to copy that information over from the one to the other. Once I am in my engagement file, I will click on the Add Create a Document button and then click on Copy from Caseware Cloud. This will now load all of the engagements that's linked to my entity. You can only copy between the entity that you have open to another entity, but if you have two engagement files for that entity, you can copy across between those two, so you can see the files that you have linked to Caseware Cloud already. Or if you want to copy from another engagement. So there's my agreed upon procedures that I've done for this specific entity, and I can then select one of those engagements that I want to copy from, and I can then go ahead and choose the documents that I want to copy. So if I already completed some of the work programs, or I've done working papers that I want to copy over from another engagements within the same entity, I can go ahead and do that. Also added in this release is our red warning and engagement glossary defaults. So you will now receive a warning once at the top of the document when you have not responded to a procedure in a particular document. In addition to this, you will see the following text, not answered 1, with 3 X's and a hash when a procedure has not been answered for the engagement glossary item to show. So here we can see an example in our letter of representation to indicate that we have not answered 1 in document 101 trust account. So currently it's not reading correctly because it's reading engagement on legal practitioner not answered -101, which indicates to me that I need to go to document 101 and then answer a specific item for this to then pull through. And I can see there's a few information in 101 that I have not yet answered that I would have to go back. We also give you a red warning at the top. So once we go answer those two, these 101s would then go and disappear because we've answered the information that's needed. This just helps us to make sure that when we get to the deliverables within the engagement, that information is complete. And then lastly, you can now also create new Word and Excel documents from within the document manager. So if I go back to the document manager and I click on the plus button again, I can now go and create a brand new Word document or a new Excel document, give it a name, and then go ahead and complete the document. This brings us to the end of the features section. Let's move on to some of the fixes that we've done within the engagement. When you're raising an issue, we had some issues with issues in terms of raising it and allocating it to a specific person. So you can go and within a work program raise an issue to say why was this accepted, and when raising the issue you could use the app to go and allocate that to someone. The add button did not always work, so we just made sure that we fixed that. So now you can use the add button to allocate, and also if you want to mention someone, you can do that. And then lastly, in terms of some of the fixes, we've also fixed some of the printing elements when it comes to the work programs and checklist, as well as margins within your letters and reports. So those will now print better with the text alignments, especially when you print your checklist. Now let's move on to some of the content. In general, ISQM 1 was issued by the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board in December 2020 and became effective on the 15th of December 2022. So ISQM 1 replaced the previous ISQC 1, and the terminology in all of the working papers, reports and letters have been updated to include the new terminology related to ISQM 1, and that counts for the legal practitioners as well as for property practitioners. Looking at legal practitioners specifically for ISAE attestation, there has been no specific changes. The laws and regulations as well as the standards relating to the engagement in legal practitioners' trust accounts have no significant changes that affected this release. It's important to note that there will be some changes in the ISRS agreed upon procedures release, with the ability for you to now also create an engagement for legal practitioners to report to the Fidelity. Then looking at the content for the Property Practitioners Act 2019. So with the implementation date of the Property Practitioners Act 2019, the PPA, and the Property Practitioners Regulations that was proclaimed 1st of February 2022, This content in ISAE attestation is now updated based on the requirements of the PPA and the PPR, as well as the guidelines provided by the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, the PPRA. So the PPA uses the term property practitioner in place of estate agent, and therefore ISAE attestation now uses the term property practitioner in all of the work programs, reports and letters. The Estate Agency Affairs Board was also replaced with Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, and work programs, reports, letters were also updated to include the reference to the PPA and the PPR. Let's have a look at what this looks like within ISAE attestation. So now we have the option to select property practitioner, and the engagement will then be tailored accordingly. If we go to documents, you will now see that the information is then updated accordingly, and you will now see specific procedures based on the PPR. More importantly to note is the reports together with the relevant fidelity fund certificates and the submission checklist. So we now have the report to the management discharge with governance, your letter of representation, as well as the property practitioner's cover report. So this is new. And then we also have the auditor's reasonable assurance report together with the auditor's reasonable assurance report submission checklist to help you with what you need to submit to the PPRA. So some brand new documents that we've included to meet the new reporting requirements. Important to note that you also need to now complete an ISRS agreed upon procedures report to report on the property practitioners, and we'll cover that within the property practitioners What's New video. Thank you for watching this video on what's new in ISAE attestation.